The Brown versus Board of Education case is one of the most important Supreme Court rulings in the history of the United States. The case was started by Oliver Brown, the leader of a group of 12 African American parents from Topeka, Kansas, who wanted their children to be allowed to attend the same schools as the white kids. The case was based on the statement in the 14th Amendment that stated, "No state shall deny to any person the equal protection of the laws." However, it was an uphill battle for the plaintiffs because the Plessy v. Ferguson ruling had declared that the 14th Amendment did not apply to African Americans. The final and unanimous ruling in the Brown v. Board of Education case was that it was unconstitutional for states to segregate their schools based on the 14th Amendment. As one can imagine, this decision faced strong resistance in the South. The local response was fairly calm. The schools were completely integrated within the next year. However, integration was not that easy everywhere. In 1957, Arkansas Governor Orville Faubus called out his state's National Guard to block black students' entry into Little Rock Central High School. President Dwight David Eisenhower responded by deploying the 101st Airborne Division and by taking control of Arkansas's National Guard. So Governor Faubus's actions were useless. In 1963, Alabama Governor George Wallace himself blocked the door to Foster Auditorium at the University of Alabama to prevent the enrollment of 2 black students. He moved aside when General Henry Graham of the Alabama National Guard, who was ordered by President John F. Kennedy to come there, came and told him to move. In Georgia, after the decision in 1954, some attempts were made to integrate the state universities, but the efforts failed until 1960 when Charlayne Hunter and Hamilton Holmes filed suit against the University of Georgia in a federal district court. Every time they applied to the university, they were denied admission. They were told the reason for their denial was that there was not enough room in the university for them, but other white students were getting accepted. The ruling of the federal court stated that UGA had to admit Hunter and Holmes. The immediate reaction of the students was calm. However, a few days later, a mob formed outside Myers Hall, Hunter's dorm. The mob consisted of locals, students, teachers, and Ku Klux Klan members. They shouted degrading remarks, started fires, and threw bricks at Hunter's dorm. They broke 60 windows, 10 of which were in Hunter's room. The riot was quickly getting out of hand. State troopers were called in to help disperse the rowdy crowd. They were slow to respond, but once they got there, they had to use tear gas and water hoses to break up the mob. Both Hunter and Holmes eventually graduated from the University of Georgia in their respective fields. In Mississippi, much like at UGA, a black student named James Meredith was trying to get accepted into the University of Mississippi, or Ole Miss as it is called. He filed suit and won the case for his acceptance. This was strongly resisted by the locals and students. President Kennedy called in the military. 2 people died and many were injured in the riots that ensued. Kennedy even declared Oxford, the city where Ole Miss is located, a battleground. Meredith attended the university for 2 semesters. While there, he faced much discrimination. Students were constantly finding ways to harass him, such as bouncing basketballs up against his walls and on his ceiling. He later attended Columbia University of Law and a school in Nigeria on his path to becoming the influential politician that he became. These are all examples of the political and racial tensions during the late 50s and early 60s. The Brown versus Board of Education case, among other decisions and events, would lead to the Civil Rights Act of 1964. But in spite legislation and court decisions, some racial discrimination still exists today. One example of recent racial discrimination was in the 1990s with the LA race riots. Unfortunately, as long as humans are on the earth, there will always be differences. And as long as there are differences, there will be conflict. However, like Oliver Brown, we should look for a way to solve that conflict and bring equality to all.